Every year there seem to be more and more open world games releasing, and as somebody that has experienced open world fatigue over the last couple of years, it can be difficult to pick out the good from the bad. So I thought I'd make a list of 10 open world games that I'm personally looking forward to in 2022 and beyond. Don't forget to subscribe for more, drop a like, check out the links down below. Let me know your picks for open world games you're looking forward to in 2022, 2023, or beyond those years in the comments down below. And let's jump in at number 10. Number 10 is one that I would say I'm not necessarily excited for so much as intrigued to find out if it is as bad as it sounds on paper, and that is Sonic Frontiers. We found out at the end of 2021 that Sonic was going open world with the brand new announcement of Sonic Frontiers. This game appears to be somewhat inspired by Breath of the Wild, very successful release for Nintendo, and it makes sense as to why Sega would be going in that direction with Sonic. I can't say it's something that I've necessarily wanted or needed, but the idea of Sonic going open world does lend itself to some interesting gameplay. Being able to take that unrivaled speed and push it into an open space where you yourself are avoiding obstacles like trees or trees. This game isn't something I desperately needed, but the idea of it does have me intrigued. Not because I really want an open world Sonic game, more because I want to see exactly how they execute this, how they translate gameplay that they've put into various 3D Sonic games. As we know, it's never really had a true identity in the modern era, from the 3D platformer to the boost formula to this puzzle platformer type deal they went for with Sonic Boom. It could be a matter of combining all three elements into something that actually comes together in a really nice way. Although the idea of having leveling and XP and the skill tree does have me a little bit worried that that's being implemented into a Sonic game. It seems every open world game these days has to have some sort of RPG mechanic, which I don't think is necessary in something like Sonic, but you never know, it could be implemented well. I do have to say though, in favour of it being open world, it was something I always enjoyed about Sonic as a character, was his curiosity for the world. You look at him in Sonic X and you see him spending a lot of time zipping around to different places on the planet all the time to explore and discover what there is, and I would always love to experience that as Sonic. It was something we never really got to see in the games because obviously they were linear, they were level based, but making an open world does give you that sandbox, that roleplay experience as the Blue Hedgehog himself, to dart around from place to place, zipping across this map to see exactly what there is to find and explore. As long as you fill it with interesting stuff to do and a worthwhile set of content, then you could definitely be onto something here. At number 9, I've got Dokev, I think that's how you say it, which is a very interesting game. The premise itself is a big sprawling open world with multiple ways of traversal. You're collecting and fighting different monsters, and you can also play with your friends. It sounds pretty generic on the surface, but I think that this game looks very unique and very interesting. I don't know what it is about it, because it does look kind of ridiculous, kind of silly, kind of childish, but there's something about the art style, something about the visuals, and something about the entire presentation of it that really sucked me in when I first watched this trailer.
It just looks like vibes, man. This is like some seriously cool vibes. Oh my god, it looks so cool.
It's something that I think I will definitely be streaming, definitely be hopping on with friends and fucking around in, maybe some viewers as well, because it looks interesting as a video game. It might be one of those ones that I don't play too much, but I think for the time that I do play it, I'm going to have a lot of fun with it. And it just looks like it does something somewhat unique with the open world formula. I guess time will tell if that's actually true, but from what we've seen, it looks really interesting. At number 8, we have Saints Row. Now, this is one of those games that is an interesting one, and I guess that's why I've put it on the list. I always loved Saints Row. Saints Row 2 is, of course, my favorite. I adore Saints Row 1. I'm not a huge fan of Saints Row 3, and 4's direction is strange, but that being said, I still really like Saints Row 4. You can check out my retrospective for the entire Saints Row franchise on my own channel. I'll link the video in the description if you want to give it a watch. But I think this Saints Row is pretty make or break. A lot of the stuff we've seen in the marketing has been, well, interesting is a word you could use. The idea they're trying to make it a millennial power fantasy, whatever that means, is a strange thing, and it does beg the question, is this game going in completely the wrong direction for Saints Row? It's very possible, and I wouldn't be surprised if this game is very lackluster and kind of does suck. But they're doubling down on this game that they want to make, and it seems like they really are confident in it, and maybe we've just not seen enough. Maybe we don't know the context. Maybe we need to experience this story in this game before we really get a sense of what they're going for here. I do think the marketing has led me to believe this game is going to be an utter failure, but that being said, I'm still very intrigued to see where they take it, given that I really do love Saints Row as a brand. The tone and the story aside though, the open world itself looks very interesting, it looks very diverse, and looks like it's going to be a ton of fun to actually go around and explore. So that is an aspect that I'm looking forward to, and hopefully they reel me in on everything else as well. I really want to love this new Saints Row, but I can't say that so far I think I'm necessarily going to. But it is one to watch nonetheless. At number 7, we have Gotham Knights, a game that originally I wasn't too keen on, but over the last few months and watching some new trailers and footage, I've really come around to, and actually I think I'm quite looking forward to Gotham Knights. It is a game that introduces a few more RPG elements into the already established Arkham formula, as well as a whole co-op element to it as well, playing as the 4 different playable characters, being that of Batgirl, Robin, Nightwing, and Red Hood. Batman is dead in this universe, but you best believe he's probably not dead, right? I mean, I'm not the only one that's thought that. He's probably definitely not dead, and he's going to show up at the last minute, potentially as an extra playable character for after you finish the main story, or maybe not, and maybe he just makes an appearance. Either way, Batman is definitely not dead. I think that's pretty much for certain. Also, the voice actor for Batman is the same guy that played Alexios in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, so there's a fun fact for you. Also, he's anti-vax, so there's that. I'm not trying to cancel him, I just think it's funny. This game presents the Court of Owls as the main antagonists, and that's something that's very interesting. I always would have liked that in an Arkham game, because I feel like they're very interesting enemies for Bruce Wayne or Batman to face. It would have been very interesting for a mainline Arkham title, but nonetheless, I think it is a very interesting angle to go at for this game, and it does get me excited to see what they do exactly with the story in this case. At number 6, we have Forspoken, a game that seems to combine Western and Japanese RPGs into one singular open-world experience. The game is very magic-focused. All the combat is a magic-based system, which is something you don't see a lot, where combat is all magical and whimsical, and you're flying around, and you're shooting out spells, and you're doing all this stuff, and you're fighting dragons. It looks very cool and very interesting, and you're using magic as your traversal tool as well, flying across these environments, running across these vast open spaces. It looks really cool as a concept. My only worry is that it does look a little bit janky in some areas, and obviously it's been delayed, and that's clearly a reason for the delay, but hopefully we see that polish by the time this game comes around, and they managed to clean up all the areas where it did look a little bit messy. I do love Square Enix though, and I do love their RPGs. I'm a big fan of Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy, all of that sort of stuff. So I'm very interested to see what they do here with Forspoken, and I think overall the game's got a lot of charm, a lot of personality, a lot of flair, and it looks very unique. So long as they fill the world with meaningful things to find, do, and discover, then they're probably onto a winner here, and this one looks really cool. At number 5, we have Hogwarts Legacy, the game based on the Harry Potter universe. It looks very interesting as a title. Now, for me, I'm a little bit apprehensive of this game. I did feel that they were trying to cram in a lot of elements that maybe didn't necessarily need to be there. Things like crafting, looting gear, XP, leveling up, that sort of thing. I'm not too keen on those things because I feel like they're crammed into pretty much every game these days and often don't serve an incredibly unique purpose other than to blow out the game a little bit. That being said, the world of Hogwarts and Hogsmeade and the surrounding areas looks absolutely gorgeous, and it does look like Hogwarts is going to hold a lot of secrets for the player to discover and find for themselves. And on top of that, with it not being the Hogwarts we know from the modern Harry Potter stories, it being a few hundred years prior to those stories, Hogwarts is very different, meaning it's going to be entirely new to explore these places. Of course, we're going to find some places we recognize. You're going to find some locations that you definitely have seen before. But I do think that with it being set hundreds of years before, it's going to be a very unique experience, seeing what Hogsmeade was like in the village, seeing what the different rooms in Hogwarts was like, the common room, the Great Hall, the staircase, all of those iconic locations, but what they looked like hundreds of years before the movies and books were set. It's yet to really be seen what the characters are like, what the story is going to entail, or what the direct focus of this game is, but in terms of being an open world Harry Potter Wizarding World video game, it looks like it's really nailing all of the core aspects of that experience, and that's something that's definitely very exciting for Harry Potter fans, as we've never really had a game like this before. The closest obviously being Order of the Phoenix or the Half-Blood Prince video games, and those games leave a lot to be desired in some areas, although I do love them and they have a lot of charm in their own right. Hogwarts Legacy looks like it's tapping into what it means to be an open-world Harry Potter game, and that is very exciting. At number 4, I've got S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2. Now, this is an interesting one because very, very recently, of course, with the crisis happening in Ukraine, the development on this game has, of course, been halted, as you would expect. On their website, they've obviously got a message from the developers and ways that you can aid the efforts in Ukraine, which of course, if you want to help out, you can do, and I'll leave a link in the description to that, which is obviously infinitely more important than a video game. If S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 ever actually comes out is not really something that should be a focus at this point, but given the game did look very interesting, I did want to include it on this list nonetheless. The game is a first-person survival horror game set in Chernobyl. Their focus is on being somewhat of an immersive sim, which is a type of game we don't see a lot of these days. You look back at old titles such as the Half-Life games, for example, or Deus Ex back in the day were immersive sims, games where you can really interact with the environment, the story, and decide the outcome yourself, solving puzzles, navigating the world, and interacting with things as you see fit in a very, very interesting way. It forces you to think outside of the box, more so than in the confines of what you've been taught you have to do within a video game. So it's a lot less linear than things that we're used to. Also, that focus on being immersive, being grounded, and being that survival horror experience means that this game is really going to ground you in the space that you're exploring. And I don't think it's an open world in the traditional sense of open world where you have a bunch of markers on your map. I think it's a little bit more linear than that, although I could be completely wrong. But the idea is to explore, visit these various different areas, and those areas are going to contain somewhat of a linear section for you to traverse. Of course, I could be wrong about this, but those are just the vibes that I get from seeing the footage. It looks like some of the areas you're visiting are quite well curated, more so than just a big sprawling space that you run across like you would do in a Fallout, for example. One of the things they're advertising on their website is official mod support, meaning they want people to mod their game to give it an even longer lifespan, as well as a multiplayer mode coming down the line as well. So there's a lot of plans for this game, and the game itself looks absolutely gorgeous. Definitely in the running for one of, if not the greatest looking video game I've probably ever seen, rivaling things like The Last of Us Part 2 or Metro Exodus. This game looks absolutely brilliant, and I cannot wait to see where the developers take it. At number 3, we have Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown. Now, if you know me, you know I absolutely love racing games, and the Test Drive series is something I used to play way back in the day. Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown is taking that old Test Drive formula and bringing it to a modern generation of video games. Now, if you've never played these games, it's more than just a racing sim or a racing experience. It's a lifestyle experience. It's all about making yourself the flashiest you can be, with the best cars, the best clothes, the best houses, and decking all of that stuff out to suit your style. It's something that I really, really like about the Test Drive series as opposed to something like Forza or Gran Turismo. There's a focus on the player and your own style more so than just driving and cars, and I think that's something that's really, really cool and unique about it. I'm interested to see where they take it in terms of player customization and the homes that you can buy within the open space that I assume you'll be driving around in, as well as exactly what the driving is going to feel like, whether it goes for more of a Gran Turismo or more of a Forza in its approach. I'm a lot more of a Forza type racing player, to be honest. I like the arcadey feel to it, the power fantasy of just driving around a fast car and having complete control over it in the environment that you're racing in. I think it's a ton of fun, and Test Drive was always a franchise I really did enjoy as a kid, so it's going to be interesting to get back into that, play it again, build your way up through the racing scene, and deck yourself out with the best cars, the best clothes, and the best houses that money can buy. What's interesting though is we haven't really seen much of the game. Apparently it's coming out end of this year in September, but we're yet to actually see direct footage from it, which is something that's quite interesting. Does that bode well? I mean, who knows? I think time will tell, and maybe around the sort of June, July period, we'll probably start to see a little bit more gameplay for some of these releases, so that we can get an idea of exactly what they look like, what they play like, and if they're actually coming out when they've been said to be coming out, because, you know, everything's getting delayed these days. It's just what happens when a global pandemic strikes. But regardless, I'm very much looking forward to this one, and I hope that it delivers. At number 2, we have Starfield, Bethesda's first new IP in 25 years. Starfield marks a turning point for the company, and I think it's going to be very interesting to see where this goes. To me, Starfield is somewhat of a make or break for Bethesda. I've been quite in two minds about this company for quite a while now. Obviously, I loved Bethesda back in the day with your Fallout 3 and your Skyrim. Obviously, Oblivion was a big success as well. But when you look at things like Fallout 76, Fallout 4 not really playing into what makes Fallout so compelling, and their sort of lack of release of their main games, it does make you a little bit worried for their newest releases, namely Elder Scrolls 6 and of course Starfield as well. Starfield to me is sort of this game that will tell whether Bethesda still know what they're doing or not, whether they can still make a competent and well-built RPG, whether this bodes well for the Elder Scrolls 6, or whether it's time to pack up our bags and forget Bethesda entirely because they simply can't make games anymore. Regardless, I am very much excited for Starfield. I've been really wanting a sci-fi RPG, and so this is coming out at just the right time for me. Hopefully they're able to build on everything that makes a Bethesda RPG what it is, in terms of your choices within the world, your navigation through an open space, the idea of zipping around to different planets, the player customization in terms of your outfits and your weaponry, homes and companions, things like that. And what I think is really interesting is the stuff that they've been talking about in interviews is that Starfield is very much an ode to old Bethesda titles. It's a return to old school hardcore RPG format, which is something that's really exciting because it's something I've missed a hell of a lot. And although Todd Howard is not the most reliable source information, assuming we can believe what he's saying, then this game does sound like they're going in the exact right direction they need to be going in for their future titles, and it bodes well for Starfield and of course Elder Scrolls 6 as well. And finally, at number 1, we have got Crimson Desert. From the developers of Black Desert Online comes this single-player, action-adventure, open-world RPG. Now, this game looks incredibly interesting. I think with what they've shown of the game so far in terms of the visuals, the diversity of open world environments, the stuff you're going to be engaging in, the combat itself, it really does get me intrigued for what this game is going to be about. And the developers of this game, of course, put out some great stuff. They're not developers that often cut corners. They really do create some great games, and so that does leave me feeling pretty optimistic about this one. Obviously, it looks very ambitious in terms of everything it's trying to pull off, and I think that's really something that, you know, is valued in this industry, and it's something that I really like to see when these developers really try to push the envelope with what they can do with open worlds, because it's very easy to fall into a sort of comfortable spot with open world games, really just do the same stuff everybody else does, create a Ubisoft open world, and you're pretty much set. But it looks like Crimson Desert seems to be going in a pretty unique and interesting direction. They're really trying to do something quite vast and ambitious, and I think that's commendable. Obviously, we've not seen a lot of this for kind of a long time, which is a little bit worrying. It would be nice to see some updates to know that this game is still in the works and is still coming out, but regardless of that, I think we'll get some updates this year. There's obviously some things to work through, like there is a little bit of jank there in the combat, and the motion blur is a little bit fucking insane. What are we doing here? Jesus Christ. But on the whole, this game looks very ambitious and very, very interesting. It's one of the open world games that really caught my eye in the last couple years, and it's something that I've been really following quite closely to see exactly where they take this, where they go with it, and if it pans out to be everything that they're trying to make it look like it is. Well, that's about it for the top 10 open world games that I'm personally interested in or looking forward to in 2022 and beyond. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Are there some games I didn't mention? Are there some games on this list that you wouldn't have included? I want to know your thoughts. Let me know in the comment section down below. Get engaged. Let's talk about some open world games. Don't forget to drop a sub. Don't forget to like the video if you did enjoy. All that is always appreciated here on the channel. If you want more content from me, obviously I'll be doing some more stuff on the network. We have our podcast here too. There's obviously my own personal channel where you can find all of the stuff that I do. If you are new and you don't know who I am, feel free to drop a sub to that channel too. All the links are down below. Anyway, thank you very much for tuning in, and we will see you all next time for another video. Catch you later, everybody. Bye-bye.